while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats.
You're up on
Deploy
camera now,
your
but you're
career
not.
in IT
Audio's
today
not
at
up.
mycomputercareer.edu/CWP, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
VA education benefits are available to those who qualify.
Here we go.
Good Morning Fayetteville with Gilbert Bays. On WFNZ. News Talk 640 AM and now at 103.5 HD2. Your information crossroads. WFNZ.
News Talk 640 WFNC. In addition to being on WFNC, we're also podcasting right now on my Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Yep.
I tell you, and Kenny, we're going to get more cameras in here so people can see. But right now, we have the luxury and beauty of having Troy McDuffie in here. Troy is a candidate for Cumberland County Sheriff. We want to welcome you to Good Morning Fayetteville, and you threw your hat in the ring here with the endorsement of the former sheriff who retired. Ennis Wright. How did that happen?
That's correct, and good morning, Gilbert, for having me here. Ennis and I have always had a good working relationship and a friendship. Probably it's been about a month now. We were talking, we were having a discussion, and Ennis discussed some things with me, and then he came back and he said, Troy, it's time for you to put that hat back on. And I said, who? And we talked a little bit more, and he said, well, think about it over the weekend. He pledged his support. And we talked it over, a week later, and here I am.
Well, you're no stranger to law enforcement, but the thing about this that's happening right now is
Right.
The sheriff endorsed and recommended that the current sheriff, Jonathan Morgan, would be the sheriff. And you would think that in the election that's coming up, because Jonathan's got to run just like you, that he would still attain the support from the sheriff. And that's not the case. What's changed that that you can tell us?
Well, I don't want to get into, any details. I'd rather that come from Ennis. But, as you said earlier, in one of your interviews, a person has a right to change his mind. And based on what, Ennis observed, he felt like I would be, the stronger candidate of the leadership that he wanted to see in that sheriff's office to carry on his legacy and Sheriff Butler. Him and Sheriff Butler, they were really that was a tight. They were very tight.
Well, you make a good point here because it was Moose Butler who recommended Ennis Wright be the sheriff, and the Board of Commissioners kind of went along with all that. Then Ennis has won a couple of elections on his own.
Correct.
But you got to when you get that endorsement though, and the county commissioners go along with it, and everyone supports you. That's good in terms of continuity.
True.
And so now we have a situation that's going to be a little bit different. I don't want to hold your feet to the carpet because it is Ennis's decision to support whomever he wishes to support.
Right.
And I'll get a chance to talk with former Sheriff Wright to come in. But there is this continuity and this hope that, and I know Moose had it for Ennis in terms of, I don't want to say necessarily loyalty, but there is a transition of not only power, but procedures and policies and things within the law enforcement community that you would hope would continue from sheriff to sheriff. And it doesn't seem like that's happening for some reason. That's my gist of what's happening. You're no stranger to law enforcement. I guess give us your background of where you've been and what you've done.
Well, I attribute my starting law enforcement to the military. I joined the military in 1982. I served with the 82nd Airborne up until 86 when I left the military and the Fayetteville Police Department was hiring. It drew my interest. I applied, for a police officer position, and I was hired that November of '86. Left the military probably 2 weeks before that. 2 weeks later, I was hired by the Fayetteville Police Department. Moved on, and I spent 16 years with that agency. 11 of those years was mainly working in investigations, working pretty much, any crimes up from property crimes, child sex abuse crimes, and I think my last stint was working homicide before I left Fayetteville Police Department and took over the Hope County Sheriff's Office along with the late Hubert Peterkin there as his chief deputy. I spent some time there, about 3.5 years, then moved on to Red Springs, where I spent about 3.5 years there. And then, of course, everyone, well, not everyone, because I'm learning a lot of people still aren't aware, what happened in Spring Lake. But I took over that agency in 2009, late 2009, after the department had been shut down. Its powers, were stripped. And it was my job to rebuild that department, regain police powers, and get that agency back on its feet.
Now, did you come out of retirement to do that? I think they called you back.
No. I was still active. I was still the police chief in Red Springs. Now, it took about 3.5 years to rebuild. When I say rebuild, when we started in Spring Lake, we only had 7 or 8 officers. When I left, it was about 35. But it took about 3.5 years working with the late Ed Grannis. We started with him, and I did it in a 4-phase plan. Getting the officers initially back on the road for misdemeanor arrests, and then we moved on to investigation. But along that same time, we're having to hire new officers, bring in qualified candidates. Once we got all the detectives in place, we resumed the property crimes and then violent crimes. And the last crimes that we assumed was homicides. But by then, Ed Grannis was no longer the district attorney, Attorney Billy West. So it was some challenging times, along with getting equipment, restoring the evidence room, getting more space. It was a process, but it was successful, and we built that relationship back with the community, which was also needed because there was no trust. The community lost trust in the department because of everything that occurred. And I served until 2017 is when I retired. But by then, we were a fully functioning police department. And in 2017, I retired, and they hired a new chief. I think it was Chuck Kimmel, which he stayed, I think it was about 8 months, and then he left and took over an agency in Texas. So the town manager approached me and asked would I come back and serve on an interim basis until they hired a new chief, which I agreed to. I served in that role for about 6 months before a new town manager came in and asked would I stay full time. And I did. I stayed probably another 3 years. I'll total almost 4 years.
So you retired. Now all of a sudden you want to be back in. I don't say not necessarily now all of a sudden, but Muhammad Ali retired 3 times.
Right.
So people can retire and want to all of a sudden get back in. During the time that you've been away, grandfather, father, kids, family, how do you put that aside and then say I'm going to get back in the race?
Well, I look at it, if you're a believer, some things, and I am, I feel are ordained. I feel it's a calling. That the good Lord, he gave me a break. I thought he was finished with me, but he's given me that break to take care of family, to extend my family, and now I'm at that point where I'm in a position to come back and serve the community. To be honest with you, it wasn't on the radar, but again, when you stand on the sideline, when you're so accustomed to protecting and serving, and I've been on the sideline. I watch, the daily events, things that occur, and some things you see and said, I probably could have made a difference if I was in a leadership position. But that's neither here nor there. It's taken me a little while to adjust because you go from retirement, out of the spotlight, no concerns, no responsibilities. A lot of people, you can focus on family. But after discussing it with my wife and my son, he just turned 4 on Friday. I'm ready. I'm ready, mentally and physically. I'm prepared to do this job.
If you're just joining me, Troy McDuffie has his hat in the ring to become the next sheriff here in Cumberland County, and he has it with the endorsement of retired Sheriff Ennis Wright, who initially endorsed and asked that Jonathan Morgan, who was his operation officer, become sheriff, and the county commissioner said yes. They went along with it. It was a unanimous decision to support that decision. But now something has changed, where former Sheriff Wright is supporting your candidacy and asked you to step in and run, and so you have his full support, and you'll have that as the campaign continues. We've got four people now that are running for sheriff.
Yes.
All 4 Democrats. I was talking with Paul Wolverton just a few seconds ago, and as I've offered you time to come in, I've also offered the sitting sheriff an opportunity to come in and discuss his candidacy, and I'll reach out to the other 2 candidates as well to give them equal time. Troy, we appreciate you, and good luck to you in your run. There's a primary that will happen in March. And as Paul mentioned, if no Republicans run, then that race could be decided in March.
Yes, I mean it's a short time span, to get things up and running. But yes, that's true.
Well, we'll see what happens here. Again, filing period closes on Friday, and we'll see if anybody else throws their hat in the ring. I think that Kenny was talking about running for sheriff.
Not now.
Okay, now, yeah, Kenny's decided to not throw his hat in the ring. So all right. So it's on you and 3 others. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Gilbert. And again, thanks for having me.
All right, you're listening to News Talk 640 WFNC.
After a frigid start to the morning, today will be sunny and remain cold with a high of only 37 degrees. Overnight will be clear with a low down to 22, and Tuesday will be mostly sunny with a high of 49. After this cold start to the week, we do start a warming trend with high temperatures eventually reaching the 60s, possibly flirting with 70 degrees by the weekend. That is your Fayetteville forecast. I'm CBS 17 meteorologist Rachel Dunsing.
All right, Rachel, 20 degrees right now in Fayetteville, St. Paul's, and also at Fort Bragg. You're listening to News Talk 640. We're WFNC.